War. What is it good for? Well, let's see as we wind back the clock to March 1963 and Marvel's newest comic book series debuts, one with a team whose only superpower is the ability to yell Wahoo at the top of their lungs. This is the story of Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, Marvel's first war series created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Welcome back to Tales from My Spinner Rack. I'm Gary Sassman, the former Director of Programming and Publications for Comic-Con International San Diego. This is episode 14 of my ongoing series of videos about the comic books I loved while growing up in the 1960s and 70s. And before we dive into this episode, it would be greatly appreciated if you could hit that subscribe button on the page and leave a like or a comment if you enjoyed this episode, and turn on notifications for new Spinner Rack videos. We're on the march to 1,000 subscribers, so each and every one of you counts. And tell all your comics-loving friends to join us here. Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos premiered on March 5th, 1963, cover dated for May, a few months shy of the other two 1963 premieres from Marvel, The Avengers and the X-Men, both of which came out on July 2nd, alongside Fantastic Four Annual Number 1, and you can bet your bottom dollar, true believer, that that's a tale we're itching to tell. In the general scheme of all things Marvel, Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos was the seventh creation to debut in the Marvel Age of Comics, following the Fantastic Four, Incredible Hulk, the Mighty Thor, Amazing Spider-Man, the Astonishing Ant-Man, and the Invincible Iron Man. If you count Johnny Storm's Human Torch series and Strange Tales, it's actually number 8, but let's not. The Torch already appeared in FF. Sorry, Johnny. And for you completists out there, God bless you, Doctor Strange first appeared 1 month later in issue number 110 of Strange Tales, a title that will become very important to Nick Fury in the near future. I was only 6 years old when Sergeant Fury number 1 came out, and I hadn't really seen any war books. I was much more drawn to the colorful world of superheroes. I'm sure by that time I had seen war movies on TV, but that first issue, which introduced Fury and the Howlers, sure seemed like a different kind of comic book to me. The book started with an exciting, action-packed, tension-filled splash page, which was also used as one of my favorite covers to the Odham's British Marvel reprint series, POW. Pages 2 and 3 segged right into a Meet the Howling Commandos 2-page spread, introducing our cast of characters, including Sergeant Nick Fury, 6'2" of steel-muscled, iron-nerved fighting man, Robert Rebel Ralston, lean ex-jockey from the bluegrass country of Kentucky, Corporal Dum Dum Dugan, former circus strongman, and Sergeant Fury's good right arm, Jonathan Jr. Juniper, fresh out of an Ivy League college, fast as a panther and just as dangerous, but evidently not fast enough. 60-year-old, spoiler alert, he was killed off in issue number 4 and replaced by Private Percival Pinkerton, a British soldier, in issue number 8. The other Howlers included Gabriel Gabe Jones, the sweetest trumpet this side of Carnegie Hall, Dino Manelli, handsome swashbuckler from the movies, and Izzy Cohen, the scrappy, tough master mechanic who remembers the fate of his relatives in Europe at the hands of the mad little man with the mustache. Manelli was undoubtedly patterned after Dean Martin, very popular in the 1960s in movies and on TV, while Cohen probably had a little bit of Jack Kirby in his DNA, as did Fury. Gabe was one of the first, if not the first, African-American recurring characters in comics, an unusual addition for the times. So unusual, in fact, that the printer thought colorist Stan Goldberg made a mistake and color-corrected Gabe's flesh tone to that of a white person in issue number 1. Subsequent reprintings, like this image, changed that. Fury was written by Stan Lee and drawn by Jack Kirby for the first 7 issues, inked by Dick Ayers in issues 1 to 3, and by George Bell in issues number 4 through 7. Ayers took over the penciling chores in issue number 8, still inked by the incredibly clunky and heavy-handed Bell, also known as George Rousseau, and the book took an almost immediate downturn art-wise. Kirby still handled the covers, though, and some of them are busy masterpieces, including number 10, which takes the Howlers to Okinawa, number 14, introducing Fury's arch-enemy Baron Strucker's Blitzkrieg Squad, number 16, one of my personal faves for this incredibly intense coloring, probably by Stan Goldberg, evoking the blistering heat of the desert, number 17, which takes us from the desert into the heart of the jungle, number 18, with a cover that could only be called clickbait today, and number 20, with Fury once again pitted against Baron Strucker. Stan and Jack seemed to enjoy telling stories about characters who didn't have superpowers, while simultaneously reminding us of what Marvel was all about. House ads for Sergeant Fury proclaimed action in the Fantastic Four style, and first the Fantastic Four, and now in the same inimitable style by the same writer and artist, another group of fabulous characters. Lee also inserted Reed Richards into Sergeant Fury number 3, with the future Mr. Fantastic as an OSS agent, the precursor to the CIA, thus firmly placing the book into the Marvel Universe, long before it was actually called that. Fury also appeared in Fantastic Four number 21, the Hate Monger issue, cover dated December 1963, around the time Sergeant Fury number 4 was on the stands. While Marvel's predecessor, Atlas Comics, had a number of war books in the 1950s like Battle and War, Marvel had none since the Atlas era ended. DC had great success in the 1950s and early 1960s with its Big Five war books, All-American Men of War, GI Combat, Our Army at War, Our Fighting Forces, and Star-Spangled War Stories. So it was only a matter of time until Marvel publisher Martin Goodman wanted a war book. And the 1960s spawned a sort of mini renaissance of interest in World War II in movies, TV shows, and comic books, 20 years after the actual event. The topic of World War II must have been near, but maybe not so dear, to both Stan and Jack's hearts. Both men served in the military during the war. Stan enlisted in 1942. He was just 20 years old, barely out of his teenage years, and after basic training he was assigned stateside as part of the Signal Corps. His comics writing experience served him well, and he was officially classified as a playwright, writing and producing training films and manuals. Kirby wasn't so lucky. He was drafted into the Army in July 1943 at the age of almost 26, landed on Omaha Beach in Normandy after D-Day in 1944, and fought his way through Europe with a dangerous job. Upon hearing of Kirby's artistic skills, his commander assigned him to act as an advanced scout, moving into towns and villages and sketching maps and locations of Nazi soldiers. In winter 1944, he was hospitalized due to frostbite on his legs. He almost lost them, and was assigned stateside in January 1945 and honorably discharged in July as a private first class. Like a lot of veterans, Kirby carried his war experiences locked inside, but it certainly came across in his war comics work, especially Foxhole, published for 7 issues by Simon & Kirby's own mainline comics in the 1950s, featuring what just might be Kirby's most memorable war comics cover, A Day at the Beach, based on a real-life photo of a GI. He also did the Losers series for DC in the 1970s, quite possibly his most personal take on World War II. Originally created by Robert Kanigher and drawn by Russ Heath and John Severin, with covers by Joe Kubert, Kirby wrote and illustrated issues number 151 through number 162 of Our Fighting Forces, featuring the team, which included DC war heroes Captain Storm, Johnny Cloud, and Gunner and Sarge, all of which, at one time or another, had their own books or series. Lee and Kirby produced only 7 issues of Sergeant Fury, but the King returned for an 8th issue, and what might be the high point of the entire series, issue number 13, featuring Captain America and Bucky. This is another one of those books I fell in love with for its cover, which is by Kirby and inked, thank God, by Chick Stone. Sure, it was a kick to see Kirby return to Sergeant Fury after a 5-month absence. He continued to do the covers to issue number 20, and to see Captain America team up with Fury and the Howlers. But that cover, it's a masterpiece. I think it's one of Kirby's best ever Cap covers, and it was certainly displaying the thrills and action which made them, Cap and Bucky, the overwhelming stars of the golden age of comics. Captain America's return to the burgeoning Marvel Universe was slow in coming. The Human Torch, or at least a new iteration of the character, was present at the beginning in Fantastic Four #1 in 1961. Submariner returned 6 months later in FF #4, but the missing character in Timely's Trinity, Captain America, slowly worked his way back into the newly named company, starting with a bogus appearance in the Human Torch story in Strange Tales #114, cover dated November 1963. This turned out to be a fake Cap. You can tell by the red briefs he's wearing, who was ultimately foiled by the Torch. But this issue did show a Captain America who was a very talented gymnast, and co-creator Jack Kirby clearly missed his signature Marvel character that he created with partner Joe Simon way back when in 1940. His drawings of Cap, actually a Human Torch foe called the Acrobat, show the fake Cap in incredible action poses, running, jumping, and fighting like the legendary Simon and Kirby tales from the early 1940s. The Strange Tales story ended with Stan admitting, "You guessed it, the story was really a test to see if you too would like Captain America to return. As usual, your letters will give us the answer." The letters must have been hot and heavy for Cap's return, or the decision had already been made by Stan Lee, because less than 5 months later, the real Captain America returned in Avengers #4, cover dated March 1964. Discovered in a block of ice by none other than Prince Namor, the Submariner, the Avengers thawed him out and he lived again, surviving on the basis of the super serum that ran through his veins, which kept him in a state of perfect suspended animation. Being on ice helped too, no doubt. A few months later, in August 1964, Cap started his own series in Tales of Suspense #59, alongside Iron Man, written by Stan Lee and drawn by Jack Kirby, around the time Sergeant Fury and His Howling Commandos #11 was on the newsstands. Sergeant Fury #13's story details Captain America and Bucky behind enemy lines in Europe, trying to stop a Nazi arms buildup. But they can't do it alone, and Cap requests aid from Fury and the Howlers via the always harried Captain Sam Sawyer. Fury isn't too keen on the concept of Captain America, telling Sawyer, "Who's that fancy pants costume clown think he is, requesting me?" Cap, Bucky, and Fury and Howler Reb Ralston don't actually meet up in action until page 17 of this 23-page tale, when they encounter each other on a prisoner train with Bucky masquerading as a Hitler Youth member, guarding Steve Rogers. This lack of a team-up makes the story a bit anticlimactic, to say the least, and the remaining pages have Cap and Fury blowing up the tunnel under the English Channel that the Nazis have been building, hence the troop and arms buildup in the area, whose destruction is pictured in an early Kirby one-panel, very muddy photo collage. This ending sequence reminded me a little bit of The Guns of Navarone, a film from 1961 starring Gregory Peck, David Niven, and Anthony Quinn, only minus the giant guns, and a movie I loved as a kid. Still do, to be honest. Jack Kirby returned one more time in the pages of Sergeant Fury with an uncredited stint in issue #18. Fury's love interest, British nurse Pamela Hawley, was killed in a Nazi bombing raid in London in that story, just before Fury was going to propose. Stan Lee brought back Kirby to pencil the splash page, shown here in its original art form by Kirby and Ayers, and sold by Heritage Auctions way back in 2009. And Kirby also drew the emotional final page, when Pam's father reveals her death to Fury. Pam's death would haunt Fury for issues to come. Sergeant Fury remained a Marvel monthly for many years, drawn by Dick Ayers. Stan Lee wrote it up to issue #28, revealing more and more about Fury and the Howlers. In issue #27, we learned how Fury lost his eyesight in one eye. Spoiler alert, it wasn't caused by a cat from outer space. Roy Thomas took over with issue #29, one of his first regular series writing gigs, and revealed the Howlers' origin in #34. With issue #42, Gary Friedrich started writing the series. Soon Fury and the Howlers found their dream team with Friedrich writing, Dick Ayers penciling, and John Severin on inks. Severin joined on the art with issue number 44, and the title took a quantum leap forward in quality. Evidently, Stan Lee felt so too, at least in the beginning, touting Severin's return to the Marvel bullpen on the cover. Don't miss the excitement as Fury's newest artist, the fabulous Johnny Severin, brings his own brand of battle magic to the world's greatest war mag. Plus 2 callouts in the credits box on the splash page. Special Blockbustin' Bulletin. With this special-ish, jocular Johnny Severin rejoins the bullpen as full-time Fury artist. And last but hardly least, Mighty Marvel's own secret ingredient, art and inspiration by John Severin. But somewhere along the line, Stan evidently soured on Severin's pencils, and Dick Ayers was back with issue number 47, with Severin doing the inks. He did do some memorable covers, though, on his own, including number 64's Peacemonger story, with great duotone color, probably by his sister Marie Severin, who was then working for Marvel, and my personal fave, number 70, with the Haulers parachuting into danger when they meet the Missouri Marauders, another Marvel war team akin to the Haulers, except this one didn't get its own title. And number 74, with Fury and each Hauler having to face their greatest tests in each man alone. To me, issue number 44 of Sergeant Fury and His Howling Commandos enters the golden age of the title, just like Fantastic Four number 44 does, with its introduction of the Inhumans storyline and the addition of Joe Sinnott as inker. And I have a soft spot for some of these issues. I think number 67, featuring a story called With a Little Help from My Friends, is my favorite issue of the Friedrich Ayers Severin run. In it, Fury infiltrates Nazi Germany to try and assassinate Adolf Hitler. Severin's cover is a particularly memorable one, and the story itself has great art, including an imaginative color scheme on a few wordless pages, again probably colored by Marie Severin, which isolates characters and action by color, red, blue, yellow, and green, always in the same order. And it's about Fury's quest for vengeance against former Howler Erich Koenig, whom he believes to be a traitor, and a plot to assassinate Hitler. It's also, to me at least, an issue that exemplifies how great the art team of Dick Ayers and John Severin was. Fury's long-suffering captain, Happy Sam Sawyer, who I always felt had a passing resemblance to Stan Lee, had his own moments throughout the series, but especially in issue number 72, featuring Gary Friedrich's take on Casablanca, titled Play It Alone, Sam. It was originally called Play It Again, Sam, and included likenesses of Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, Claude Rains, Peter Lorre, and Sidney Greenstreet. It even included an original song substitute for As Time Goes By, called No Matter If We Part. But Stan Lee, concerned that Warner Brothers would sue them for copyright infringement, changed it to Play It Alone, Sam, and evidently had the lookalikes toned down, and pulled Gary Friedrich's writing credit, saying instead, Gary couldn't make it this time around, so practically the whole blame bullpen sat around working on this one. Even with the changes, we all knew what was going on, and it was still a great story. Along the way, at least one new permanent Howler was introduced, the previously mentioned Erich Koenig, who took part in a major Friedrich-written storyline. Created by Stan Lee and Dick Ayers way back in Fury number 27, Friedrich weaved a rich ongoing story for Koenig, in which he was branded as a traitor when he infiltrated Nazi Germany, but he was eventually revealed as a double agent in a long and complicated story. He later went on to become an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. alongside Fury and some of the other Howlers. Another new Howler, who lasted for only one whole issue, number 75, was Private Dwayne Wilson, who after joining the team deserted and was executed for doing so. The Deserter was one of Friedrich's most famous anti-war stories and a powerful statement for the time, especially the shocking last page. It may well be the series' most famous and controversial issue, with another great John Severin cover. Issue number 76 introduced us to Fury's dead father in the story He Fought the Red Baron. Fury's parents died when he was young, so this is the first story to feature his dad. This issue came out January 6, 1970, cover dated for March of that year. And I guess if World War I biplane action was good enough for DC's Enemy Ace by Robert Kanigher and the great Joe Kubert, It was good enough for Fury and Marvel, too. With issue number 80, either Marvel publisher Martin Goodman or editor Stan Lee decided that Sergeant Fury no longer needed to be a new book each month. So rather than make the title bi-monthly, it became a reprint title alternating with a new story the following month. Dick Ayers continued penciling the new stories, and writer Gary Friedrich continued as writer on and off until issue number 116, his last issue, which featured the aptly titled story, The End of the Road. Issues number 117 through number 119 were all new stories written by Jerry Conway, with the final issue, number 120, written by Larry Lieber. In the middle of this slow wind down to oblivion, issue number 100, with a cover by Gil Kane and John Romita, and a story written by Friedrich and drawn by Ayers with inker Mike Esposito, presented a rare present-day story, which included a reunion celebrating the book's 100th anniversary, and hosted by none other than Stan Lee. The story involved an assassination attempt on Senator Robert Reb Ralston, with Fury and company chasing down the would-be assassin. With issue number 121, September 1974, the title became all reprints and lasted another 7 years, ending with number 167, December 1981, which reprinted Sergeant Fury number 1, bringing the book full circle back to its 1963 beginning. Penciler Dick Ayers approached Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four run of 102 regular issues and 6 annuals, with his own 95-issue run alongside 4 annuals. And speaking of those Ayers penciled annuals, Fury also had his own run of them with new stories every summer from 1965 through 1968, each featuring some big event in or out of World War II. Starting with number 1 in 1965 with the Howlers in Korea during that 1950s conflict. 1966's number 2 featured the Howlers at D-Day. Number 3 in 1967 reunited the squad during the then current Vietnam War. And number 4 featured World War II's Battle of the Bulge in a great issue inked by John Severin and containing the longest ever Fury epic at 47 pages. Sergeant Nick Fury went on to bigger and better things in the Marvel Universe. He would become the first director of S.H.I.E.L.D., starting in Strange Tales number 135, August 1965. S.H.I.E.L.D. stood for the Supreme Headquarters International Espionage Law Enforcement Division, but it's now known as the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division. Thank God they didn't have to have the towels remonogrammed. Some of the other Howlers, like Dum Dum, Gabe, and even Eric Koenig, became S.H.I.E.L.D. agents later in life. Jim Steranko came along and made Secret Agent Nick Fury the coolest character in comics in the late 1960s. But when writer Mark Miller and artist Brian Hitch reinvented the Avengers as the Ultimates for Marvel's Ultimate Universe line in the early 2000s, Fury magically became the spitting image of actor Samuel L. Jackson. And in a rare case of life imitating art, or at least imitating comic book art, Jackson became the living embodiment of the character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think he's played Nick Fury in 137 different movies and TV episodes so far, or at least it sure seems that way. Meanwhile, back in the comics, in a series called Original Sin, the original Nick Fury killed the Watcher, Uatu, and was punished by the other Watchers and turned into the Unseen, chained on the moon and forced to silently watch the Earth, but never allowed to interfere. Uatu eventually returned and made Fury the man on the wall. Poor Nick. And this, my friends, is why I don't read new Marvel comics anymore, especially their crappy event series. There are 4 hardbound Marvel Masterworks volumes of Sergeant Fury and His Howling Commandos, but only 1 trade paperback version, reprinting the series up to issue number 43, including annuals number 1 and 2. However, I believe most of those are out of print. Marvel has also published 2 epic collections so far. The first reprints issues number 1 through number 19, the second number 20 through number 37, and includes annuals number 1 and 2. The epic collections are more recent and probably easier to find. The Sergeant Fury series remains a guilty pleasure of mine, with issue number 13 certainly one of the high points of that original 120-issue run. I think the Gary Friedrich, Dick Ayers, John Severin issues are some of the finest war stories ever done in comics. Their run from issues number 44 through number 81 is a memorable one, and if you haven't read them, they're definitely worth checking out. Sadly, most of these issues have never been reprinted, so start digging through those long boxes at your local comic book store or your favorite Comic-Con. That's an order, Private. The end. Please stay tuned for some promotional announcements. There are 13 other full-length Tales from My Spinner Rack episodes here on YouTube, featuring everything from the great Marvel annuals of the 1960s to our old pals Jimmy and Lois, still crazy after all these years. Plus our latest, featuring 3 classic mid-1960s comics not published by either Marvel or DC, with, of course, more to come. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more Tales from My Spinner Rack videos, and leave a comment if you like what you see. Check out our playlist tab here on YouTube for other features featuring yours truly, including my team up with David from Still Only 35 Cents, my appearances on the San Diego Comic-Con's unofficial blog SD Concast, interviews I conducted with artists Jen Bartel and Michael Cho, a comprehensive look at the Sense of Wonder, the Art of WonderCon exhibition I curated at the Comic-Con Museum, and a discussion about James Bond films with authors Mark A. Altman and Edward Gross about their book, Nobody Does It Better, An Oral History of 007. Visit my blog at www.innocent-bystander.com for the first iteration of Tales from My Spinner Rack, featuring nostalgic essays on the comics I grew up loving, including all the books you see here. Each post has tons of scanned artwork, including covers, story pages, and even original art. Just click on any post on the homepage and then on Tales from My Spinner Rack in the category list on the right to access all my posts. That's www.innocent-bystander.com. Follow me on Instagram at Tales from My Spinner Rack. It's all one word. Or if you want to stalk me personally, follow me at GG92118. I don't do X, I don't do Threads. There is no official Tales from My Spinner Rack Facebook page. And all my TikTok videos, crap, I don't do TikTok. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the Silver Age of comics. Thanks for watching. Good night.